I saved you, and I'm here to save you again.
So many of us played Baldur's Gate 3.
What in the sweet hells were you thinking?
Okay, so for whatever reason, they decided to open up the Project Sigil unveiling or new trailer with a whole bunch of throwbacks to Baldur's Gate 3. And I know a lot of talking heads on YouTube's decided that Baldur's Gate 3 was the new definition of D&D in, current era. I never believed it. I thought that was ridiculous. And you'll find a lot of talking heads just make things up so that they have something to talk about. But in this case, Baldur's Gate 3 was the best recreation of D&D, especially D&D combat I've ever seen. But it was in no means Dungeons & Dragons. It's just not. Like, you can't do everything that you could possibly do in the game. I'll tell you, just from my own experience, my own games that have been both player and a DM, the players will come up with things that you absolutely could never think of as a developer inside of a video game. So anybody saying Baldur's Gate 3 is the new Dungeons & Dragons is absolutely insane to me.
This is the opportunity for people to continue their adventure.
But their tokens look really cool.
In this new way to play D&D.
We have this 3D sandbox where you can bring your friends and play D&D with all of these cool 3D environments.
I mean, okay, so the devil's going to be in the details when you're building maps using Sigil. I think that you could probably create the basic form of this pretty quickly, but if you get into the super detailed little things everywhere, that's going to take hours and hours for you to set all that stuff up. And maybe you enjoy that. I know I probably am going to create some videos just creating maps, because I'm going to go out there, I'm going to buy literally every little microtransaction they have and pick up every single asset that they have available so that I can create maps and release them and just have fun, because it just looks like it's going to be a blast to design these things.
Environment pieces and miniatures that come with the product. You can start experiencing a role-playing game, but in a more digital.
I totally love, and I might be in the minority here, and comment if you feel the same way. They didn't animate the tokens. I love that they didn't do that. I want my tokens to feel like a token, a really well painted, perfectly, displayed token, but not. I don't want them jumping around or squawking or making little noises and things like that. That's just, to me, I just want my VTT to play like a table. I want, like we're in person. I just want to grab a token, move it to the next square, and then I want to dictate what my character does, and then build that picture in the minds of my players or DM or whoever I'm trying to paint that picture for. I don't want my token to do that for me. That's restrictive.
Friendly format.
You go take those characters, Asterion and Karlak, you get to play with them and just tell your own tale.
Where people.
Okay, one thing they're doing here, and I'm seeing this a lot, that I probably won't use when I get to Project Sigil, is that they're using targeting. You can see them; they're casting spells, and they're looks like right here they're doing a hit dice or a hit roll of 15 to hit what looks like Karlak. My problem is that it's slow. Really, as a DM, I'm gonna ask my players, who are you attacking? Roll your hit. And I'm going to let them know if they hit or not. I don't need them to be in a bunch of menus to target individual tokens. They can just tell me the same way we would do so in person. You're going to hear me say this a lot throughout this whole thing. I want my VTT to play like I play in person. And in person, we don't have like buttons that we press to target a specific token. We just tell the DM that we're targeting the token, and that's fine. And it runs great. And it's fast.
Who may be used to video games actually get to see the thing that you're talking about instead of just trying to imagine it.
And it's not.
That was my man Kale Stutzman. He's I believe the lead developer, the lead project engineer on the project. Doesn't mean anything. I just think the name Kale is kind of hilarious, but obviously a brilliant dude.
Meant to replace your imagination. In fact, you actually need a lot of imagination still.
You actually just pick up the miniatures and move them around, and you can build things like you would build.
Okay, here they're going to start building out a little bit of a map, and they're doing this at an elevated level, so that you're building up to it. I don't know how they're going to handle. As you can see, they're going to do 3 stories tall here. Like if you're in the building underneath it and somebody's on top of it, I don't know how they're going to handle being able to view that stuff. To me, that gets messy, and I think in my own map design, I'd probably go out of my way to avoid those situations where I'm stacking levels, because it's just difficult to manage. I kind of want it to be a 2D map just with 3D assets.
at your table with 3D terrain pieces. You have 3D characters that you can look at, manipulate, dress up. What we're trying to do is get the most fast, fun, accessible version.
You know, of course, in my VTT, the lighting was a major problem because I'm doing everything browser-based, so I didn't have the kind of horsepower you do when you're talking about a Unity game. But the lighting effects happening on a lot of these smaller assets, beautiful.
Of the game.
It's basically playing D&D on your own virtual tabletop. Just easy, fast, fun. If you played with minis before, you're just playing with minis here. It's just a place for you to connect with your friends on.
It looked to me like they just rolled initiative. So I'm assuming there's going to be a turn tracker here someplace. I'm not seeing it. I'm not even sure if D&D Maps, D&D Beyond Maps, like the 2D maps, has a turn tracker integrated into it. I do know that their idea here is that to use D&D Maps 2D alongside of Project Sigil to create that kind of full-blown experience. So you can have 2D maps when you need it, and you can also have 3D maps when you want to really do up a big boss battle or something. What else can we see here? We can see, looks like bite, dexterity bonus, proficiency of 0. And next, that's probably just going to be a turn tracking. So like, I don't know, next or back probably would be flipped from one person to another. Dedicated game server. Interesting.
Online whenever you want.
We're creating a lot of really cool assets so you can create these worlds and tell your own story.
The tools.
It really does look like they spent some time to try and make putting together dungeons easier. Because I've seen, and I'm a big fan of 3D map making software like WildShape and some other ones that I've purchased. But they are kind of a pain to get a good looking dungeon without really knowing your stuff in that software.
Aren't just about building the walls.
But these
you
look
have
great.
to bring life inside that dungeon. And of course you can make monsters, but we want you to be able to add sound effects, visual effects.
The adventure that we created to start your
Okay, so this is obviously going to be the DM screen, because you know the module is here as well. But you can see it looks. I mean, it's cool that they have this integrated in here, so you can see the adventure. I'm not sure. Like, I'm always going to be wanting a different window for this stuff. Like, I'm also, that's another thing. Well, I'm talking to the things I need from this soon, but well, I'll talk into what I think Project Sigil has and what it needs in order to really be ideal, but we'll get in that a little bit later.
journey in the 3D sandbox. It's called Danger in Dunbarrow.
This is like the best starter pack that's ever existed for Dungeons & Dragons.
One thing that is very cool here is that you can see 12 hit points, 12 hit points on Dorban Cragstone. So it looks like there's going to be direct integration with your D&D Beyond character sheets, which is going to be great because there's no dancing around trying to link those two things. And there are some ways to do it. I do a little bit in my VTT, but I don't do that extent. So as a DM, it's going to be nice to be able to tell my players, is like, yeah, you got hit and it took 6 points of damage, and I can straight up see them applying that damage, or I can apply it myself right here, and it's going to affect their character sheets. All great stuff, but again, I'm not going to be doing targeting myself. Other people are really into that automated stuff. I am not.
You can also bring in any
Kale.
character from D&D Beyond, and it
here's
will
some
bring
targeted
in
character
all of your
sheets.
equipment and all of your abilities and spells, and you can use those by clicking on the buttons.
And we also have a
Okay, so that's again, I see Project Sigil and D&D Beyond maps working in tandem with either a different browser window or a tablet where your players are running their character sheets. So what I'm going to want to see from this is that when my characters cast the spell in their character sheet, they're going to tell me what they're casting, who they're casting it at. They cast the spell, and then, I as the DM, I determine what happens from there. Also, I'm sorry for pausing on this. This guy got a little PG-13 here. But this is the character creator, so this is awesome. Like, because one of the things we need is to be able to create 3D assets or 3D tokens to build out our world, and we need to do so without paying $7 per in a terrible, terrible terms of service that we get through Hero Forge.
I think we're calling the mini maker.
But
Different
look at that.
scale, sizes, the look of
That's
it.
a lot
The
of
awesome thing
detail.
about D&D is you can continue to get like magical items, and then you can go back to your character and redress them up over and over.
What he just said is so cool. If I give one of my players a glowing staff of whatever, they can go back in and just edit their token in order to be holding the staff that they got. They get to own that without having to recreate their character and pay an extra $7 to those other guys. Instead, their token can continue to represent their character as their character evolves through the levels and through their equipment.
Over again and show your individuality within the group, and you just feel the progression.
We're really trying to capture this toyetic vibe. So all of our assets are created in a way that's like,
I think one of the things I'm most interested in is what happens with monsters and the monsters manual. If I buy the monsters manual, do I also get the tokens? Do I get 3D tokens for every single monster in the monster manual? Because I can DM forever just based on what's in the monster manual. I don't really have to go outside and create custom monsters. There's plenty there for me to work with. But did they really go through the trouble of creating a 3D assets for every single monster? I certainly hope so. I mean, these are the people I would expect to do it. So we'll see.
actually buying like a high-end mini or figure.
Dressed.
We wanted to feel kind of painted, but kind of realistic, trying to capture that beautiful in-between where art and figures and
And that
games come
beholder
together.
is amazing.
We have an idea that's called a module. It's a D&D mini adventure meant to last a few hours just so that you can get a taste or get a part of your adventure. We didn't want to tell the whole story for you, so we give you these places. You want to go to a graveyard?
Okay, so what they're talking about, they said we have the concept they're calling modules, which is basically a mini adventure, which sounds like it's going to be something really, really one-shot-ish. But it also is accompanying a place. So we're getting the module, which is also a scene, as I would refer to it. But it could be a cemetery, and that also comes with, well, if you go to the cemetery and you trip over this stone and it hits this rock, then suddenly a mummy comes, or a ghoul starts digging out of the ground, that kind of thing. So it sounds like there's going to be microtransactions. I am not worried about that because I make literally hundreds of dollars. But some people may have trouble with that, and I totally get it. If you're budgeting on that, if your budget doesn't allow you to do this, continue doing D&D like you love doing D&D, and do you. I am looking forward to the artistry that is what I'm seeing right here.
Well, here's a graveyard. You want to go to a mine? You want to go
it's
to town?
beautiful.
You can then assemble them how you want, but each has a pre-made story in it.
And like Tailspire might be one of the closest to this, but it's kind of blocky and a little bit weird. And I know why they did that. They did that because they wanted Tailspire to be easier to build with, so kind of like Legos. However, I've never. It's kind of embarrassing. I've owned Tailspire since I was able to buy it. I didn't get it on the Kickstarter, but I did buy it as soon as it was available. I've yet to figure out how to logically use that software well. Every time I open it, I struggle a little bit, and then I just close it and go back to, my own VTT or my own map makers and just ignore it completely.
Characters, adventures, and so it's a great place to start. You're modding games more than making everything whole cloth, which is just faster and more fun for most people.
Okay, so he's saying modding games. So he's talking about moving things around, moving walls, that kind of thing. So it sounds like when you buy the module, you get the individual assets that create the module, and you can do so. You can either use the one that they created, which will be these super high definition, high detail maps that you're seeing that they're displaying here. Those are modules, or you can create your own. Which if you like building that kind of stuff, do it, and then share it with me so I don't have to.
But we also have a builder, which is awesome. So you
This is
can create your own dungeon, you can create your own
dungeons.
forest.
The level builder is sort of like
One thing, and I know AI is one of those subjects people either love or hate, but I do like the idea of using AI to fill these rooms in dungeons. So if I had a way I can draw out a blacksmith that's deep inside of a dungeon, I can just say, hey, AI, this is a blacksmith, so make it so. Fill it with everything that a blacksmith would need using the assets I have available. And then it just does so and makes it pretty. yeah, that's what's up. That's what I want, because I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time in prep when I just need a blacksmith in a dungeon.
The best miniature set that you could have, and it's at your fingertips.
It comes in a variety of different kit pieces, so you can snap together multiple walls.
It's really strong.
Now, see, now there you saw the separate level, but it doesn't look like you could be underneath it. So it's just an elevated level, which is cool. I like that, and I definitely would use that because it just adds some emphasis.
Strong for DMs because you can use the level builder to make something.
One thing you're not seeing, and they're not gonna touch on, I can almost guarantee it. There is no dynamic lighting. There's no fog of war as far as what I can see. So when you're doing these maps, I don't know exactly how that's going to work. Some other 3D VTTs have implemented like block out blocks that you can put over areas. So you have like a big black block that you can just put over to block, sight on specific parts, and they just move the blocks as they go along. On mine, I basically used a two-dimensional fog of war and dynamic lighting that you would see in like a Roll20, where you have a dungeon and you draw out the walls, and as you turn, you can get a line of sight and you can see the next part of the room. But what I did with there is I also said, okay, any 3D assets that are inside of that space, let's also hide or show them based on whether or not the characters can see it. I don't see them doing that because that falls apart when you start having multiple levels. And yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, 3D and Fog of War is always going to be hard to do.
Very quickly, or you can spend as much time as you want to on it, whatever story they're trying to tell.
And the Dungeon Master has to have secrets,
Gold.
has to be able to surprise the
And
players.
traps, that's cool.
We have secret doors and traps, right? We have
And
gizmos,
that's just
like,
stunning. I mean,
lifts
that's just
that go
crazy,
up and down,
crazy
all
pretty.
sorts of crazy stuff. Really make that storytelling dynamic.
2D tokens are our way to let you bring in like every monster.
Okay, this
that
is one of the ones
any
I
image on
needed.
there, or you can bring in your own.
Okay. And what worries me here too is that they're cycling through these tokens, these 3D tokens, 2D tokens, but they also appear to be, the monster manual. As you can see here, you can see Acolyte. That doesn't even have an image in the monster manual. But a lot of these, it looks like they're going to lean into 2D tokens. I don't really like puck style 2D tokens. I'll use them if I have to. On mine, I created, what basically amounts to a paper mini just in a 3D space. I wish they would go that route and give us full size, full bodied images. But this is at least will get it on the table, because when I have something weird, like an example I use all the time is I need a troll in a top hat. I need to get that into the game, and I don't want to pay a 3D artist to do it, and I don't want to, I just want to get into the game because that's what I need living under this especially fancy bridge. So in that case, being able to use any image that I can come up with and just drop it into the game gets me through it on a prep level, and I can go on, because one thing I love to say is I don't want to prep the map more than I prep the story.
Image and create a unique character.
You don't even have to play Dungeons and Dragons necessarily, right? If you want to throw in your own custom rule set or another game, we roll dice. We have toys. Like,
Now they've said this multiple. He just said you don't even have to play D&D. You could put in your own rule set, your own game. You could do a different game in this. And they've said multiple times that this is a sandbox. This isn't a Dungeons and Dragons VTT. It's a sandbox. So there's possibilities that you could see people playing Pathfinder in the D&D Beyond VTT.
go crazy. We're starting with Dungeons and Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it. All sorts of kinds of games and all sorts of types of toys that we want to add over the years.
We're opening it up so you can bring in any kind of character you want, like fight Drist against a robot.
Okay.
You'll be able to do that.
That's Optimus Prime fighting Drist. I know it's a silly example, and it touches on. They kind of went back and forth here a little bit. So initially they said that we're adding in all these things so you can you can game any way you want to, and then later on he's saying something along the lines of you can bring in your own assets. That would be huge if we can bring in our own assets. That would be amazing. And it looks like that's what's happening here, because there's one thing that you immediately notice just on this part of Optimus Prime that you're looking at is the art style does not match the scene, and that's a very common thing when you're going to the Unity asset store or CG Trader and you're trying to find assets for your games or whatnot. One of the most troubling parts about that is that you can't match the art styles across different artists and different assets, and it can be really frustrating when you're trying to build a game. But for D&D, maybe it doesn't matter so much. Maybe you do need some sort of robot that kind of looks like the Optimus Prime, and so you want to throw it in there. I don't know. That you do you, but being able to have it open enough to add my own assets, that's priceless, and it's one of the requirements I have.
With all the groups that we're working with.
It's great because we're using those characters and we're
cool.
telling stories, but we're giving them over to the players too, so you can really play out what you've always wanted to do. The big deal is it wouldn't be Dungeons & Dragons if you couldn't share it, right? There's a huge creator community. They're the ones who've kept the game growing and going. So people are gonna be able to share these with each other. We're integrated with D&D Beyond. It's able to very easily organize information and create characters.
I mean, this part feels like just more of a recap of what we already know and would expect from it. D&D Beyond is going to be integrated, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what point they're getting to past that.
So that you can play that same character either in a book, on a piece of paper, on the web, or in this 3D immersive world. And if you have an original 2D map, you can easily upload that
Okay,
through
this is
D&D
important.
Beyond's
Watch
map
what
feature.
happens.
With just one click, you can share that map into Project Sigil, drop down your minis.
This looks just like my VTT, and this is exactly what I went for with it, because what I wanted was I wanted 2D maps and 3D tokens, and that's exactly what they did here. I love it. It's definitely something that I needed to see, because sometimes you just need to get a map on the table, and you need to do so quickly and not spend 6 hours prepping a map. So why not just take a 2D map, put it on the table, the virtual table as we have here, and then scale it as need be, and then let the players set up their camp on it, and then let them get attacked later, without us having to go into full-on 3D developer and designer mode. We can just get the scene in place so that we can continue with our overland travel.
And keep
But
right
those
on
look
playing.
great, and I love the way a 2D map
We're
looks.
starting off on
in 3D.
PC, but we want to go everywhere because we want to connect players across mobile, console, and I don't
Okay,
know,
they
maybe
said
even
mobile.
your fridge. Wherever you want to play, we want to be there at your fingertips.
So that means
This
we're going to
3D
see
immersive
it.
experience is going to be available for free to try out, but also players are going to...
I love that, but it does look like we're going to see it. I mean, I would never play D&D ever on a phone, but I would maybe run my character sheets and maybe run this on a tablet if it's a really good one. But it's questionable. But some people are different, obviously, than me, and so they're going to do that. What he just says is like, it's available for free, for a little while. It's definitely not going to be totally free. Somebody's going to be paying for these assets. Somebody's going to be paying for these modules. I don't think they're going to be charging players, but I do think the DMs were used to having to shell out the money anyways, so I'm not totally surprised by that.
get it. DMs are going to get even more advanced tools, and we're going to offer even deeper, richer experiences for those who really want to dedicate themselves to the...
One thing that I would love to see is a streamer mode, because I want to be able to do streams and then allow the computer to define the angles in which you're seeing, so that I can stream a version of the table that works for the story as it's being told, without me as the DM having to manage my table and also manage the camera view angle of the stream itself. Like, that would be wonderful.
3D side of this. Whether it's D&D Beyond, the books, or the 3D experience, we just want to make it easier, faster, put more creative control in your hands. We want to thank you for being a part of the exciting development of Project Sigil, and invite everyone with a D&D Beyond account to join the closed beta coming this fall. Sign up for free right now at D&D.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because I want to make sure this is left on. If you haven't already signed up for the open beta, they're calling it closed beta, but it really looks like they're going to let anybody into it. So this is the URL you need to go to. Just go there. If you already have a D&D Beyond account, it's literally just a button press and you're in. I don't know how they're going to roll this out. I would assume they're not going to just put everybody on it at once, because that would just absolutely overload their quality control. But you probably want to get on it sooner rather than later if you're interested in using this. So those are the things. I think it's great. I think they're really crushing several aspects of this that I think we need. They have the 2D maps, which I need. They have the 2D tokens, which I need. Obviously it's beautiful. I think it's going to be great for streaming. I'm definitely looking forward to doing some streaming with my friends through the channel using Project Sigil, and I'm definitely looking forward to building some maps and then sharing it with the community, also through Progressive D&D. Anyways, that is it for this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know how bad we all know it's going to microtransaction. Let me know how bad that hurts. Your opinion of it, whether you care. And I will see you guys the next time.